my name is Payanna and welcome to my channel. So today's video I'm going to be talking about Predator's Gold by Philip Reeve. This is the second book in the Mortal Engine series. I covered the Mortal Engines in a joint video about this and Bone Shaker by Cherie Priest. So following the events of book one, Tom and Hester now live on board the Jenny Hanover, the airship that they inherited, I guess, from Anna Fang. They work in trade and travel all over the world making a living. The book starts with the city of Anchorage that has been located up in the north in the ice fields for years. This city has been devastated by a plague, or a lot of people died, and the mayoress Freya decides to make the city move again. She wants to take it to America, where a writer by the name of Pennyroyal apparently believes that there are hidden treasures and people living there. So her aim is to travel all the way across the ice fields to the lost continent of America. Tom and Hester actually pick up the writer Pennyroyal on the way, and Tom turns out to be a huge fan of his, and he also believes that this man, who's supposed to be an archaeologist, his work should be considered as real scientific work along with all the other great archaeologists who go to America, and he's super impressed to have him on board the ship. Hester, on the other hand, not so convinced. She's a bit wary of him, but she doesn't really know what to think. They get hunted down by a very extremist anti-traction league who obviously recognize the airship as being Anna Fang's, and hunt them all the way to Anchorage, where they manage to find refuge. Freya, obviously really happy to have Pennyroyal there in person, employs him to actually show them the route to America, which he seems a bit not very inclined to do. She's also very taken with Tom and tries to seduce him, and obviously she doesn't understand why he would be with Hester, because Hester is horrifically disfigured and ugly and not very nice, and Freya thinks that she's better than everyone else, so she tries to seduce Tom. There are some weird happenings on board Anchorage. Things go missing, and eventually they figure out that there are some parasites on board the ship, these people known as the Lost Boys, who manage to smuggle their ways into cities and just steal things before reporting back to their master. Hester eventually runs away after seeing Freya force a kiss out of Tom. She's very jealous, runs away, and wants to sell Anchorage to one of the bigger Predator cities in return for Predator's gold. However, she wants them to capture Tom, and so she can kind of make it look like she saved him from this and that it had nothing to do with her, even though she was the one who orchestrated it. It gets a bit dark. Hester gets a bit dark. I mean, eventually Freya figures out, and Tom figures out, that Pennyroyal just lied about everything he's ever written. He's never actually been to America, and he just made it all up, and they find themselves lost in the wastelands with a huge great predator city after them. Freya changes her mind. She gets captured and sent to the extremist anti-traction league, where she discovers that they have turned Anna Fang into a stalker and are trying to convince her, trying to get this stalker. So stalkers are essentially robots in which they've implanted a human brain. However, they have no memory of who they were when they were alive. So they're trying to get this stalker to remember that she was Anna Fang, only she won't. And Hester, they believe that Hester was responsible for her death, so they're trying to get her to remember that, but she just won't. Tom ends up with the Lost Boys in their HQ, which is in this big city underwater. It's also quite terrifying. It gets quite dark because these boys have been kidnapped by their leader when they were babies and have brought up in this horrifically bullying and horrible environment, and just utilizes this whole hierarchy going on. Like, those who've been there the longest obviously have, a better life, but the new arrivals are actively, they like encourage the older members to bully them as much as possible to kind of forge their character, as it were. So they don't have much to eat, they don't really have any decent clothing. Yeah, they live in this really horrible environment where they're just like being surveyed 24/7. There are cameras everywhere, there's microphones everywhere, and the lost boy who managed to smuggle Tom back, he showed himself to Tom in the city of Anchorage, and that is punishable by death. So the leader kind of strings him up to a boat. So he's got this rope around his neck, and there's a boat kind of bobbing outside, and he stays there for days. Like, it's really, really dark. They go to where Hester is being held captive and free her, and they discover that their technology with stalkers actually goes much further beyond just bringing human beings back. So I was surprised by how dark this novel got. It was pretty intense. I really liked Hester's character in this novel. She doesn't really have a purpose now Valentine is dead. Like, that was her entire purpose in book one, was just to kill Valentine, because to avenge her parents, to avenge what happened to her. And that was it. Like, there was nothing else that she wanted in life. But now Valentine's dead and she's still there and she's with Tom. She doesn't really know what to do. So she has to kind of find a purpose in life. She spends a lot of time kind of wondering why Tom would want to be with her, why he wants to stay with her, because she doesn't think that she's worthy of him. She doesn't understand why he would like her, because she's horribly disfigured. She doesn't think she has any worth. She doesn't have any self-esteem. And so she spends a lot of time thinking that she just doesn't deserve this happiness, to be happy with Tom, that it's all going to fall apart. So when they do get to Anchorage and she meets Freya, and Freya is this beautiful girl who is like way better than her, basically, she just completely falls apart. So I really like that, the fact that she kind of, in book one, she's this incredibly badass, really strong character, but in this book she is full of insecurities to the point where she actually wants to betray the city of Anchorage, not really caring about all the people who live on it, to betray Freya just to be able to get Tom back and to say, well, look, I saved you, so I'm a great person. Thankfully it doesn't get to that, but it's interesting how this book pans out. Tom being really naive, so I thought it was fun because, like, in book one, he is the kind of character who, he is very naive. He just believes everything he's been taught his whole life. He doesn't question it, and when a character comes along who disagrees with him, he will just say to their face, you are wrong and I am right because this is what I've been taught, and doesn't really kind of see that the world is way more complex than what he thinks. And that's true for a lot of characters in this novel. I brought this up when I was doing my Oxapollock review, because the characters in Oxapollock are very, very stupid, and the more I think about it, the more I think that is involuntary. Like, they're just kind of supposed to be that way. But in this book, they are written that way, like, because they have such small enclosed worlds. Like, Freya comes across as being really, really stupid, but it makes sense. She's lived her whole life on Anchorage. She is a spoilt brat. Like, she is the daughter of the leaders of this city, who are basically gods. Like, they are these not gods because they have the ice gods, but they're like royalty in Anchorage. Like, her mother, her father were like royal family, and they have all these traditions. And she gets up in the morning and doesn't really understand her own life, let alone anything else. Like, she does not know how to fulfill her role. She does not know anything, really, right down to how to put toothpaste on her toothbrush. She also doesn't really, like, she always, like, takes a moment to think, oh yeah, everybody's dead, because, like, most of the people at Anchorage have died because of the plague, including her parents. She kind of wakes up in the morning, waits for her servants to arrive, and when they don't, she's like, oh yeah, they're dead, aren't they? So So it just kind of made this really weird contrast. Like on one side, you've got this character who's been through something really horrific. Like all her world has fallen apart. Everyone she knows almost has died. And she's just like, yeah, oh yeah, they're dead, aren't they? Freya woke early and lay for a while in the dark, feeling her city shiver and sway beneath her as its powerful engine sent it skittering across the ice. Sleepily, she waited for her servants to come and help her out of bed. It took her a few moments to remember that they were all dead. She threw off the covers, lit the argon lamp, and waded through dusty mounds of cast-off clothes to her bathroom. For several weeks now she'd been working up the courage to have a shower. But once again, this morning, the complicated controls in the shower stall defeated her. She couldn't make the water run hot. In the end, she just filled a hand basin as usual and splashed her face and neck. There was a sliver of soap left, and she rubbed some into her hair and plunged it under the water. Her bath servants would have used shampoo lotion, salves, conditioners, all sorts of pleasant-smelling balms. But they were all dead. And the rack upon rack of bottles in the walk-in bathroom cabinet intimidated Freya. Faced with so much choice, she chose to use nothing. So Freya really is a product of her environment, of how, like, this world that the people of Anchorage have kind of built for themselves can fall apart very rapidly if a few select people come to pass away. So I really liked her character for that, especially as she I think she's the one who kind of has to deal with the most, because not only does she have to kind of go through all of this learning how to live on her own without people to wait on her, but also discovering that Pennyroyal was just a liar, discovering that her whole world essentially is a lie because she tells the people of Anchorage that she is going to America because the ice gods told her to, when in fact she has no clue what she's doing. And eventually she has to accept that Tom and Hester are a thing, and he likes Hester despite her being disfigured, because in the end she comes in and saves everyone in her amazing badass way that she kind of reclaims that from book one. I'm gonna be a badass again and come in and save everyone. And the other important character is Pennyroyal, who is essentially Gilderoy Lockhart. He is a massive narcissist who's built up this entire narrative around himself and around his achievements, and made a fortune out of it because he sells his books are all bestsellers all over the world. So he really does reinforce this persona of his whenever he can, until it all falls apart. And again, at the end, when Tom confronts him with this, he, like Lockhart in the Chamber of Secrets, becomes dangerous and actually shoots Tom, because suddenly his, this kind of innocent, fun, quirky, I guess, clownish character then suddenly turns into something really dangerous. The only difference, like with Lockhart, is that he doesn't actually get any kind of he doesn't have to deal with any consequences of what he did, because Lockhart gets his memory wiped, and later on in the series we get to see him in a mental institution. Pennyroyal just escapes and goes back to his friends and tells them about this great adventure with Anchorage, and he basically writes his own version of it. We get this new book coming out at the end, Predator's Gold, the new book by Pennyroyal. So he once again makes a fortune, this time out of other people's misery. So he starts off as a kind of quirky, narcissistic, innocent, I guess, clown, and turns into a very dark and dangerous character at the end. So yeah, I was quite surprised by how, I mean, it was pretty dark. Book one was pretty dark because, like, we had the whole thing about Valentine murdering Hester's parents and, like, slashing her face when she was like 6 years old when he did that. So this guy clearly has no morals, and he'd also built up a kind of persona for himself about being an archaeologist, about being a great adventurer. Only he actually was, because he was looking for Medusa, the weapon that eventually destroyed London. And also in book one, you have the Stalker Shrike, which I was kind of sad didn't appear again in this book. So we have the Stalker and a fan, but I really liked Shrike, and I really did see him as a kind of Frankenstein's monster because of this relationship he had with Hester. So I really would like him to come back. If somebody can bring him back to life, they're all obsessed with stalkers now, right? They're making stalkers the extremist anti-traction people, and Anna Fang, the stalker at the end, does come out and say, "Look, I'm not Anna Fang. I'm someone else. I want to destroy cities." So it's gonna get big. So the traction cities, your days are numbered. I guess, I don't know. There are two more books I think in this series. I have book 3 waiting. But overall, yeah, I really do enjoy this. I love the world that Philip Reeve has created. It's terrifying. It is genuinely terrifying. So yes, super excited to read book 3, which is called Infernal Devices, I believe. It's up there somewhere. Yes, Infernal Devices. That was it. That was Predator's Gold by Philip Reeve. I hope you enjoyed this video. Don't hesitate to like, share, comment, and subscribe. Please help my channel grow. I really appreciate it. I love doing this. So on the basis of that, I'll see you all soon. Thank you so much. Bye.